How to Stay Invisible. Chapter 17. Raymond sat in the cafeteria eating his breakfast of French toast sticks. He looked around for Harlan, who was usually there by now. He was almost finished with his milk when a few kids came running in. The kids went straight to Miss Marcus, and she hurried out of the cafeteria into the courtyard. Raymond wondered what was going on. He stood to throw his trash away and was almost to the trash can when Lexi came through the cafeteria doors. She looked around, and then her eyes found Raymond. Raymond knew immediately that something was wrong. Lexi made a beeline across the cafeteria to him. He tried not to panic. This is not about me, he thought. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. He racked his brain. Did he forget to stomp out the fire this morning? Did Hank follow him to school? He could feel his heart racing, and then Lexi was right in front of him. It's Harlan, she said. She shook her head. Just come, okay? She grabbed Raymond by the arm, and he allowed himself to be dragged from the cafeteria. Outside, there were students everywhere. Harlan was standing in the middle of the courtyard, somehow alone in a sea of students, staring at a man who, Miss Marcus, was now desperately trying to calm down. It's his dad, Lexi whispered to Raymond, her voice full of angst. But even if she hadn't said anything, Raymond would have known by the look on Harlan's face. Raymond wasn't sure what he should do, but he knew he couldn't just stand there with Lexi watching it happen. He pushed past the crowd of students and went to stand with Harlan. Harlan made eye contact with Raymond. Harlan's father was pacing the breezeway in front of the school. He was shouting for Harlan to come over, but Miss Marcus was standing in front of him, asking him to lower his voice, trying to get him to sit down. This seemed to make Harlan's father more agitated. He ran his fingers through his hair and gripped at his shirt. Raymond couldn't do anything but stand there. He could hear a voice, Lexi's maybe, behind him yelling at the other students to go away, to stop staring. He thought maybe he should yell too, but he felt speechless, and he knew that no matter what, he wouldn't leave Harlan. Then Mrs. Harding came running out of the office with Mr. Brewer. Within minutes, Raymond heard sirens, and then 2 police cars were pulling into the school parking lot. Harlan! His father was screaming. He's right there! He yelled at the cops, and Raymond could see spit hanging from his mouth. The cops handcuffed Harlan's father and put him in the back seat, and Raymond could only see the outline of his head as the police car with him in it pulled out of the parking lot. Mrs. Harding marched over to clear the rest of the courtyard of students, and then Miss Marcus was standing in front of them. Come on, you two, she said quietly. She put her arm around Harlan, who let go of Raymond's hand. Raymond looked down. He hadn't even realized he'd been holding it. Raymond and Harlan were seated for the second time that year in Mrs. Harding's office. Only this time they were offered water and peppermints. I'm so sorry, Harlan, Miss Marcus said. Harlan nodded and shrugged. He took a sip of his water. Mrs. Harding walked by. Miss Marcus, the police officers would like a statement from you, she said. All right, Miss Marcus replied, looking back at Raymond and Harlan like she wanted to say something, but she didn't know what. Then she shook her head and walked out. Mrs. Harding stepped into the room. Harlan, I'm going to call your grandmother to come and pick you up, she said. I think it might be best if you don't go to classes today. Raymond, why don't you wait with him? I'll give you a pass back to class later. Yes, ma'am, Raymond responded. Mrs. Harding left, pulling the door of her office closed behind her. It's my birthday today, Harlan told Raymond. Raymond looked at his friend. That's why he came, 'cause today's my birthday. He does this on holidays. Raymond wasn't sure what to say, so he didn't say anything. He gets sick, Harlan said. He was concentrating on his cup of water. Raymond could feel the familiar lump in his throat. He swallowed. There are worse things than being alone, Raymond thought. And then he did something he'd never done before. My parents leave me all the time, he said. His voice was surprisingly steady. I haven't seen them in over a month. Just then, the door opened and Mrs. Harding stuck her head in. Your grandmother is on the way, Harlan. She'll be here any minute. She left the door open when she left. Apart from the office noises and Mrs. Bradshaw answering the phone, the room was completely silent. After what seemed like a very long time, Mrs. Harding stuck her head in again. She's here. Harlan set his cup down and stood up. Bye, Raymond. Raymond smiled at his friend. See you, Harlan. Mrs. Harding returned with Raymond's pass. Mr. Brewer knows you'll be late today. Raymond thanked her and headed to his class. As he walked by the school's front doors, he saw Harlan's grandmother hugging Harlan. Raymond smiled, glad that Harlan had someone to hug. He knew he should be worried that Harlan would tell someone about his parents, but somehow Raymond knew he wouldn't. The rest of the school day was torture for Raymond. Harlan's father was the only thing anybody seemed to be talking about. In the hall, Jeremy Wallace was loud enough for everyone to hear. If I had a dad like that, I'd never show my face again. Raymond felt anger surge through him. But before he could do anything, Lexi was there. Why don't you shut your tiny mouth, Jeremy? She said. Aw, Lexi, he said. I was only kidding. Well, take your jokes somewhere else, she said. Jeremy smiled, but Lexi shook her head. Then Joseph Banker knocked Jeremy's shoulder. Yeah, Jeremy, go somewhere else. Jeremy looked at his friend, confused. Jeremy walked off, pushing past Raymond and shooting him a look that could cut through ice. Raymond rolled his eyes and followed the rest of the class into science and sat down. Hey, Lexi said to Raymond, is Harlan okay? I don't think so, Raymond said, but he will be. Harlan's pretty tough. Yes, said Lexi. Her voice was sad, and she lowered it even more, careful of who was listening. This isn't the first time this has happened. Raymond wondered how many times Harlan's father had shown up before now. Lexi sighed and then perked up like she'd just remembered something. Hey, I got the teeth. Want to meet tomorrow after school? That sounds good, Raymond said, but he felt distracted. Mr. Rosen told the class to quiet down then as he turned on a movie about conducting experiments. The class took notes for the rest of the period, but Raymond stared out the window, worrying about his friend. After school, Raymond collapsed into a pile of leaves outside of the hollow. He felt like he had been holding his breath all day and could finally let it go. Tears poured from his eyes, and he pulled his knees to his forehead and buried his face in his arms. It wasn't fair. Harlan didn't deserve parents like that. Raymond took a deep, shaking breath and thought of his own parents. He squeezed his eyes shut. Within minutes, Rosie found him. She dug her nose under his elbow and tried to wedge herself between his knees. Raymond let out a strangled laugh and allowed her to wriggle in. He hugged Rosie and took a deep breath. I can do this, he thought. He exhaled. He leaned against the hollow and looked around. No Hank today. Come on, Rosie, he said. He stood up and they checked his trap. The rock lay flat on the ground and the sticks were scattered. Raymond held his breath and lifted the rock. Underneath lay a squirrel. There was no doubt that he had had a quick death, and Raymond quietly thanked the animal. He turned to his dog. This one is all yours, girl, he said. The next day at breakfast, Raymond sat eating his ham biscuit, checking the door every few seconds for Harlan. Finally, he saw him. Harlan was wearing his usual oversized racing shirt. After a few minutes, Harlan appeared standing by the table with his breakfast tray, looking awkwardly at Raymond. What are you doing? Are you going to sit down? Raymond asked. Harlan let out an exaggerated breath and sat down across from Raymond. I wasn't sure you'd still want me to sit with me after yesterday usually scares folks off a bit. He took a bite of biscuit. I don't scare easily, Raymond said. Me either, Harlan grinned and sipped his milk. Sorry about your parents. They've been gone for a while, huh? Raymond shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He glanced behind his shoulder to make sure nobody was around. Not so loud, Harlan, please, Raymond said. Sorry, he said, and then in a very serious tone asked, But Ray, what have you been eating? Fish, mostly, Raymond answered honestly. Harlan nodded. Maybe I can bring you some supplies. Just tell me what you need. Thank you, Harlan. I'll let you know. Raymond knew he probably wouldn't ask Harlan for anything, but there was a sense of relief knowing he could if he needed to. I don't know what I'd do if I was alone for that long. Probably eat cake for breakfast every morning. Harlan? Raymond cut in. Yeah? Can we talk about something else? Harlan leaned back and took another bite of his biscuit without missing a beat. You see the race last night? He asked, talking with his mouth full. Raymond shook his head. He was happy to have his friend back.